Excalibur adds a very powerful exalted weapon to your arsenal and backs that up with basic but versatile abilities. Excalibur's passive gives you 10% more base damage and attack speed when using a single sword, a pair of dual swords, a single Nikana, or a rapier class weapon. The damage, being base damage that's additive with pressure point, is not a meaningful damage increase, but attack speed is always nice and 10% is not nothing. Excalibur has an extremely powerful melee weapon ability though, so it's not going to be effective to change your choice of melee weapon because of this passive. Excalibur Umbra has another passive that I'll come back to later. Slash Dash targets enemies in a cone and then automatically pinballs you between them. You deal damage to each target hit, and this damage also scales with some mods on your normal melee weapon, not mods on Exalted Blade. You can't lose health while performing Slash Dash either. The damage isn't all that powerful in practice due to the low base damage, but it's a serviceable panic button ability. However, if you don't have targets, you simply lunge forward a distance based on your range. Used in that way, Slash Dash can be an excellent mobility tool as long as you can avoid targeting enemies in close quarters environments. Radial Blind, and you're not going to believe this, blinds enemies in a radius. They're stunned and they're vulnerable to the stealth damage multiplier, most notably from Exalted Blade. Basically, they take a lot more melee damage. Blinded enemies are also vulnerable to prompted finishers for the duration. The Excalibur Umbra variant is called Radial Howl, but it does basically the same thing. Simple, useful ability, very good base range and duration. Radial Blind is the ability that Excalibur shares with the Helminth system too. Radial Javelin fires a set number of javelins, 12 at max rank, that can target up to that many enemies in a radius around Excalibur. That number of javelins can't be modified, but the base damage of this ability is pretty high, so it will remain useful for some of the star chart before its extremely slow casting animation and inability to truly scale make it inferior to other options. On its own at higher levels, this ability isn't a good use of your time. And now for an ability that is a good use of your time. Exalted Blade. Okay, you take out a lightsaber, that's an entirely new weapon. You mod it separately. It has its own stats, it's not your melee weapon but powered up, it has okay critical chance and status chance, it's mostly slash damage, building strength gives it more damage as a separate multiplier, all that stuff is good. The real spice is that swinging Exalted Blade creates blade waves. This is a ranged melee weapon, the waves do the same damage as your blade. It doesn't cost much energy to maintain Exalted Blade and it's really powerful and easy to use. One of the only things that is not absolutely amazing about it is that the blade waves have damage fall off, so they do less damage the farther you are from enemies. Do note as well that heavy attacks with Exalted Blade don't make blade waves at all. You can also slide attack with Exalted Blade for a mini Radial Blind. It costs less energy but has lower base range and duration. Still very useful. Think about which size blind you need to save energy. The mini blind is still affected by your range and duration stats, so it will often be good enough. Now, there's more to say about these abilities, especially about Exalted Blade, but here I've focused only on the most practical information. For more details about Excalibur and how to get this frame for yourself, check the wiki. I'm not going to talk about Excalibur Umbra's special passive in this video, but there are things to discuss about it, so now that you understand Excalibur's powers, I want to entice you with some builds. Behold! These appearances correspond to each of the Excalibur builds that I want to show you in my other Excalibur videos. The catch is that one of them is a complete meme. If you're from the past, I hope you'll have a bit of fun trying to guess what each of them might be, which one is going to be a bit silly. Likewise, if you're from the future, you'll find each build video linked on screen, marked as a spoiler, and those are also linked in the description. Perhaps the most widely owned Warframe as the most popular starter frame and the one whose variant you get through a quest, Excalibur is simple and powerful. That doesn't mean there's no finesse to using these abilities though. I hope you're as excited as I am to build a playstyle and let loose on your enemies.